Hello and welcome back everyone. I am Dr. Meenu Sharma. Hope you all are enjoying this journey of exploring drama. In our previous lecture, we covered the literary elements of drama, or you can say the blueprint written into the script. Today, we are going to shift our focus uh, to what makes those blueprint or those words come alive on stage. And here we mean the technical and performance elements. Before we begin our detailed discussion, let me outline the key areas we are going to cover in today's lecture. And this will surely help you to follow the structure and understand how each parts connect to the whole. So let's see, first of all, we look at the technical elements. In today's world, we call them stagecraft. Think of the lighting, sound, props, costume, set design. So you can say it includes all the behind the scene magic that creates the environment for performance. We are going to discuss all of them in detail. Another thing, you will also agree that even with a strong script and brilliant stagecraft, drama would remain incomplete without the performer themselves. And here, this brings us to the third category, the performance elements. These are basically the human contribution, and here we come to know of the skills, the techniques that actors use to transform words and stagecraft and turn it into a living theatre. Performance elements actually reminding us that theatre is not only literature or design, but it is a living art form. And this living art form totally dependent on human presence and connection. Also, as we go through this, I want you to reflect on the learning. So we shall conclude with a reflection exercise with some questions. Now let's begin. To have a clear understanding, wait for a moment and picture yourself in a theater. The curtain rises. So what's the first thing you notice? Not the dialogue, not even the actors yet, but the world they inhabit. The set, the light, the costumes, or you can say the little objects they hold. These are the technical elements of drama. All of them are silent forces which shapes our emotions. In fact, they guide our focus and immerse us in the play's universe. So to put it simply, technical elements are the craft that make that magic happen. So you can see on the screen, these are the technical elements, and let's decode them one by one. The first element we have is set design. If you think of the set as the canvas on which drama is painted, it is never just background, but it is the environment that tells us where we are or what kind of world the characters inhabit. In fact, sometimes the set help us to understand the themes the play is going to explore. Take Vijay Tendulkar's Silence, the court is in session, for example. Here, the courtroom isn't just a backdrop. It intensifies the social critique. Here, the realism makes us feel like we are witnessing an actual trial. And this actually heightens both the discomfort and the impact. Now let's compare that with Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot. But we have a bad tree and an empty road, so minimal, yet so powerful. They symbolize emptiness and endless waiting that defines human existence. So, whether it is a lavish palace or a simple house, the set always establishes the mood, the context, and sometimes act almost like a character itself. So, it can be said that without the set, the play would feel unanchored. The next element we have is lighting. You can understand it like if a set is the canvas, then lighting is the emotional compass of that play. Why? Because it directs our eyes, it sets the tone, in fact reveals the inner world of the characters. It can highlight any character, suggest time shifts, and in fact create a suspense. Let's understand it with example of Hamlet's soliloquy. We find that a spotlight on Hamlet's that isolate him from the rest of the stage. So here lighting visually represent his inner turmoil and loneliness. On the other side, you can say Macbeth, where dim lighting drenches the stages in shadows and highlights the corruption, even moral darkness. However, in modern theatre, lighting has become even more versatile, and it can suggest the time shifts, also like morning sunlight, evening glow, and even so many psychological states. For instance, a sudden flash of red might symbolize anger or violence, while a cool blue wash might suggest the melancholy or detachment. So here we can understand that lighting don't just make actor visible, but it makes emotions visible. Following this, we have the costumes and makeup, and this elements particularly associate with the character. So costume and makeup are, you can say, the visual language of a character. Before a character speaks, their appearance already tell us something about them. The costume reveals identity like age, status, profession, even some part of their personality also. For instance, as soon we see a king's robe, we instantly signals authority. The second thing is makeup, and makeup add symbolism. It enhances expression and can symbolize cultural, or you can say thematic ideas. We can understand it with the example of Kathakali, which has that elaborate makeup and costume. And this element transforms the actor into gods, demons, and even heroes. In fact, you will agree that the color of costume definitely help to enhance the quality of that emotion. In Shakespeare's play, Elizabethan costume reflected that social hierarchy and historical setting, and the audience immediately understood who is a noble, who is common, who held the power. So it can be said that the costume and makeup add cultural richness and visual appeal, and these are the elements which make a character distinct and unforgettable. Now let's move on another element, and that is props. Props are basically those physical items used by actors to support action or symbolism. And prop in drama may look like simple objects, but once you start paying attention, you realize that how quietly powerful they are. They don't just sit on stage, they shape the mood and guide the action. In fact, props often carry meaning that words alone cannot express. For instance, think of a sword in a battle scene. It's practical, it allows the fight to happen. and the audience accept it as a part of the world of that play. But then think of Hamlet holding that skull you can see on the screen. Suddenly, the object becomes a doorway into deeper ideas. Ideas like mortality, memory, and the fragility of life. So, we can see that one prop is functional and the other is philosophical. Whenever we look at prop this way, we start noticing how they reveal character too. A person who keeps checking a watch might be anxious or controlling. And prop play a very important role, even a diary, a cup, a toy. These everyday objects becomes extension of the character's inner life, and they help the audience to understand what the character value or fears. So it can be said that props also anchor the theme of any play. A letter can stand for secrecy or betrayal, or a broken toy can quietly communicate lost innocence. So these objects become the visual shorthand for the larger ideas the playwright wants us to sit with. And of course, you will see that how props evolve with society. Classical plays are always full with swords, scrolls, and handwritten letters. On the other side, in modern plays, you will see smartphone, headphones, credit card. These are all our objects that reflect how we communicate and live today. In that sense, prop become cultural markers too. So when we talk about props, we are really talking about the silent storyteller of the stage. The last element in this category is sound and music. Sound and music in drama work almost like the atmosphere you breathe on stage. You may not always notice them consciously, but they actually shape how you feel every moment. When a play begins with a soft hum or a distant drum beat, or even the simple sound of rain, the audience is already being guided into a particular emotional space. For an instance, a creaking door may make anyone lean forward with tension, while a gentle breeze or bird song can instantly calm the room. These sounds make the world of the play feel alive, and not just seen but felt. So it can be said that music adds another layer to this emotional experience. A character walking in with a light, playful tune behind them tells you something about their personality even before they speak. In fact, sometimes music becomes a kind of narrator. It helps us transition between scenes and signals a shift in mood. And more than that, it reveals what a character is feeling inside. Similarly and interestingly, silence is just as powerful. A sudden pause with no sound at all can create suspense or make the audience sit with an emotion more intensely. So, when we talk about sound and music in drama, we are actually talking about the emotional architecture of the performance. They guide the audience feeling, further they deep the storytelling and make the dramatic world more immersive. So to sum up, it can be said that when you watch a play, don't just listen to the dialogue. Look at the set. What mood does it create? Notice the lighting. Where does it guide your eyes? Observe the costume and makeup. What do they reveal before even a word is spoken? and pay attention to the props, what hidden meaning do they carry. Because together these technical elements are those invisible storyteller. They shape the atmosphere and transform the stage into a living world. Without them, drama would be incomplete. Now, having understood the technical aspects, we arrive at the performance elements of a drama. Now look at the screen. All of these are basically the human contribution. These are the skills and techniques actors use to bring the written script and stagecraft to life. Because you will agree that without performance, drama remains incomplete. Because it is only through the actor's body, voice, and presence that audience truly experience the story. Without actor, without their presence, there is no story. Now let's explore these key performance elements one by one. So the first and most important performance element is acting. Acting is the art of interpretation, is actually the art of breathing life into the playwright's word. And for acting, it is not enough to dress up like that and recite those written lines. But an actor has to embody that character, make them believable, make the audience believable, make that character a human, and also have to make a connection with the audience. Think of Hamlet. To perform Hamlet, the actor must balance hesitation, grief, and rage all at once. And too much of one emotion and the character feels flat. So the brilliance lies in the shifting balance, and this balance is the key. Hamlet is indecisive one moment, furious the next, and deeply sorrowful in between. So we can understand that acting requires an emotional truth and physical discipline. And above all, connection with the audience. This is what turns text into a living, breathing experience. Next in the list is voice modulation. Now, when we talk about acting, it is important to remember that the voice is the actor's primary instrument. Just as a musician depends on sounds to express emotion, an actor depends on pitch, the tone, and of course the pace to bring meaning to that text. Because voice does not simply carry words, but it carries emotion, the intention, in fact the psychology of a character. As you all know that studies in communication suggest that a large part of emotional meaning, almost 40%, come from vocal tone rather than the words themselves. So what does that tell us? It tells us that even if the dialogue is powerful, the way it is spoken determines how the audience receive it. Think about this for a moment. A trembling voice, whenever you have a trembling voice, it immediately suggests fear or maybe nervousness or a kind of inner conflict. On the other hand, a firm, steady voice signals that authority and confidence. And we can understand these emotions instantly, often even before we consciously process that dialogue. To understand better, let's take the example of Girish Karnad's famous play Tughlaq. The character of Muhammad bin Tughlaq undergoes a deep psychological journey. As we all know, he begins as an idealistic ruler. He was confident and full of vision. And gradually, as his plans fail and opposition increases, that idealism turns into a kind of frustration, further anger and confusion. And by the end of play, he is emotionally exhausted and deeply isolated. So this transformation can never be shown through costume or movement alone. The actor have to, the actors has to use voice modulation to reflect Tughlaq's inner state. You may have noticed that in the early scenes, his voice may sound clear, energetic, and persuasive. As tension builds, the tone may become sharper, the pace is quicker, or the volume was uneven. And in the moment of despair, the voice may lose strength and it become hollow or even drop into silence. So through these changes, the audience does not see Tughlaq's downfall, but they hear it. And voice modulation here help to create the atmosphere of a scene. Without this effective voice modulation, even the strongest dialogue, strongest line can fall flat. And whenever this voice is used consciously and skillfully, it always adds emotional depth, clarity, and realism to that performance. In theatre, voice is not just about being audible, but it is about being truthful, expressive, and alive. Now, let's move to the next important element of performance, and that is facial expressions and gesture. You will all agree that sometimes the face say more than words ever can. Even before a character speaks, that face has already begun to communicate with the audience. In fact, facial expressions and gestures are universal cues. You may not understand the language of the play or film or OTT series, but you still understand the emotion. And that's the power of non-verbal communication. For example, raised eyebrows immediately suggest that surprise. Similarly, clenched fist signal anger or aggression, and a gentle smile almost always communicate compassion, or you can say warmth. And these reactions are very instinctive. We recognize them instantly without any explanation. And this is because that human face is capable of expressing hundreds of emotional variation. And actors are trained to control even the smallest facial muscle, because a slight shift can change the meaning of an entire scene. Gesture also work in the similar way. Like a rigid posture can show a kind of resistance, or you can say fear, and open arms may suggest trust or surrender. Similarly, a sudden movement can indicate a kind of shock or urgency. So we can understand that together facial expression and gesture gives the performance that nuance and emotional resonance. In many cases, these non-verbal signals are actually more powerful than dialogue itself. Why? Because they reveal the inner state of the character, what the character feels, what the character actually feels. So facial expression and gestures are not decorative elements, but they are essential storytelling tools. Why? Because they deepen the emotions and clarify the intention, and always help the audience to connect instantly with the character. Because in theater, what is felt is often more important than what is said. Following this, we come to another crucial aspect of performance, and that is body language and movement. Body language is the way an actor moves on stage, and it is never random. It constantly communicates status, mood, intention, in fact, the inner conflict of that character at that moment. In fact, uh, even when a character is silent, the body continues to speak. For example, the nervous pacing immediately suggests that anxiety, restlessness, or you can say that inner tension. On the other hand, stillness can suggest that calmness, or maybe the confidence, or even deep emotional control. So movement, or even the absence of movement, both they carry meaning. In theater, the audience reads the body. They read the body much like they read the voice or the face. A hunched posture may suggest a kind of defeat or insecurity. On the other side, an upright stance suggests that confidence or a kind of authority. So movement also help the audience to understand the character better. Now let's look at a powerful example, and a very famous example in fact, and that is Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot. In this play, the characters engage in a repetitive, almost meaningless movement. If you have noticed, what they were doing, they were walking back and forth, adjusting their heads, sitting and standing again and again. So these movements may seem simple, but they are deeply symbolic. Why? Because they reflect the boredom and endless waiting. And that's the central theme of this play. So they basically reinforce the play's central theme, and that is existentialism. So here movement does not move the story forward. It shows that story cannot move forward. And this tells us something very important. So we can understand that movement is not just physical action, but it is a kind of dramatic expression. And body language also help create a kind of rhythm and visual dynamics on stage. Think about this contrast. A character slouching quietly in a corner, and what it tells us? It tells us something very different from a character striding confidently across the stage. Although there is no dialogue, without dialogue, we immediately understand that their psychological state and social position are different. So movement shapes how the audience, how the spectators interpret a character, and it always helps to deepen the meaning and supports the theme. Now let's talk about the stage blocking. And blocking simply means the planned movement of actors on stage. It's not random wandering, but it is carefully designed to tell the story visually. You can think of it as a kind of choreography of drama. And why is it important? Because where a character stand, how they move, even the direction they face can completely change the meaning of a scene. Let's understand it with an example, and again we are taking example of Hamlet, the famous play by Shakespeare. If Hamlet deliver his soliloquy center stage facing the audience, it feels very intimate, like he is letting us into his mind. But what if he turns away, speaking to the horizon? It feels more distant and more philosophical. So you can understand that blocking also direct the audience attention. If Lady Macbeth moved closer to Macbeth while whispering, we feel her influence tightening around him. On the other hand, distance on stage often reflect that emotional distance also. In fact, script often write blocking like a blueprint. If you have read that play, who enter, who exit, who cross the stage, and when, everything has been written in the script. But good blockings always must feel natural, not mechanical. It should feel like life unfolding, even though it's carefully rehearsed before the play, but it should always look like life unfolding naturally. So whenever you watch a play, don't just listen to the words, notice the movement also. And ask yourself, why is this character standing here? Why do they move now? That's the blocking at work. And it's the silent language of drama. So through all this discussion, we can clearly understand one thing, that performance elements are vital. They remind us that theatre is not just literature on a page or design on a stage, but it is a living art form, dependent on the actor's ability to embody, express, and connect with the audience. So, theatre truly comes alive only when voice, expression, and movement work together. So, next time, whenever you watch a play, don't focus only on what is being said. Pay attention to how it is being said. Notice the acting choices, the voice modulation, the gesture, in fact, the blocking on stage. So, we can say these are the tools that make the theatre memorable. In fact, these are the elements that turn a drama into an experience that stays with us long after the curtain falls. Now, as we conclude, let's bring together everything we have learned today. So, drama at its core is built on three major pillars. The first is literary elements, second is technical elements. We already have covered literary elements in our previous lecture, the script, the ideas, the theme, and the structure. Secondly, the technical element, which include the stagecraft, lighting, costumes, sound, and the overall sensory environment. And the third, we have just covered performance elements, the human heartbeat of any theatre, the actor's craft. So together, all these three elements transform the any written script or written words into a living art. They make the drama a mirror of society and a celebration of imagination. And here is the reflection exercise as we are at the end of our session. To strengthen your understanding of drama and its elements, I'd like you to try a small activity this week. Watch a play or a film and then identify, okay, closely watch that and identify at least one literary element such as theme or plot, one technical element, whether it is lighting or costume or makeup, and also one performance element such as acting style and gesture or stage blocking maybe. And after that, reflect on that how these three elements, three types of elements work together to create the meaning and emotional impact. Hope this will surely reinforce your learning. So, as we have already discussed, drama is not just part of your syllabus. In fact, it is part of life itself. So, as you step out of this lecture today, remember this: every performance you watch or participate in is built on these foundations. And the more you learn to recognize them, the deeper your appreciation of drama as an art form becomes. So keep learning, keep growing, and see you in the next lecture. Thank you so much.